I'm going to show you two things at one time. This is a simulated skirt, for example. I'm going to show you how to put an invisible zipper in a skirt. You would also use an invisible zipper in, say, I'm blanking out here, like a pillow, a decorative pillow. You could put it in the seams and then you finish sewing your pillow all the way around to have a nice invisible zipper. An invisible zipper is literally what it sounds like. It just looks like a seam when you're finished. When you buy them in the store, they look very specifically different from a regular zipper. I had a regular zipper. Yeah, I do have a zillion of them over here. Nope, that's invisible. I have too many invisible zippers. I don't use them that much. So when you're at this store, you have to take a quick look. A lot of students accidentally buy invisible zippers. So that's a regular zipper. You can tell by the tab has the little hole in it, and then the teeth are exposed. So that's a standard regular zipper. Then you see these kind, and it has no teeth showing in the front. And it's always the same tab. It's got this little dart-shaped teardrop style tab. And that's literally the only thing that's going to be showing when we're done with this zipper. The teeth are in the back. And when you unzip it, you can see that the teeth are actually rolled toward the tape of the zipper permanently. So, I mean, even when you pick at it, it rolls back down. So what we do, we have a special foot to sew that on, which lifts these teeth out of the way, and the stitching goes right next to the lifted teeth so that when it folds back down and you zip it, you have a magically invisible zipper. So I'll walk you through that with a regular zipper foot. This is what a invisible zipper foot looks like. You can buy them online if you're going to use it a lot. I actually just started using this recently. On the domestic models, they would probably have just a plastic foot, but it's the same thing. It has these little grooves in it that lifts up those teeth of the zipper and lets the stitching get in there. So in lieu of having that, the next best thing, which I do more often, is I've gone to the iron. And you can see the difference between, this is the invisible zipper I was showing you, where the teeth are flat. So you go to the iron and you literally, on the board, take the iron and mash it down and open that up. By hitting it with the iron, I'm heating it open temporarily. So I've done that here. So as you can see, those teeth are now flat, open. And they won't stay that way. If I zip this up and left it for a while and then unzipped it, they would have returned to their curled up, folded down state. But temporarily, I've ironed it open because I need to get in there. So I'm going to change over to my zipper foot, and you have a couple of options on the zipper foot. I don't know if the snap-on zipper foot you have in your kit would work. I've never tried it, but you also should have a zipper foot that looks like this, where it has just a divot on one side, and you have to install the whole foot on the machine instead of snapping it on. So I'm just going to put that on, and it opens on the left. I mean, it sews where the needle would be on the left side. So to get ready to put my zipper in, you still have two pieces. You have the right side of the skirt and the left side of the skirt, and this is the back. So to get it going, I always just visualize. Sometimes it's too hard to try to memorize what to do first, but if you don't memorize, you visualize. So if I visualize this zipper in a closed position, it would look like that. So that means I know that I need to bring this fabric over the top of the zipper and just grab that one side and get the other guy out of the way. So that to me is a lot easier than trying to memorize which side goes where. So I've flipped it in place. I'm going to begin sewing with the zipper all the way down. This is where the zipper closes right here. That's the end of it. But you have this excess tape, which is absolutely important. You never cut it off. You need that. Later, what will happen is a waistband will go across here. So that's why you have to sew it down here because you need room for that. Also, I'm putting it a little bit in from my overlocked edge because this is my seam allowance here where I'm going to be sewing along the zipper teeth. That's allowing me about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I just slide it under and you can see that, yes, that's 1/2 inch here lining up. And then there's the beginning of my zipper. But I'm going to start all the way at the top, holding the threads down. And then you can pin this ahead of time or you can just eyeball it. I'm just eyeballing my seam allowance and I'm sewing really close to my pressed away teeth. I just pressed away my teeth. And it's fine, go slow. Invisible zippers usually come in 9 inches and about 22 inches. Those are the standard 2 sizes. They don't come in many different lengths. So if you're sewing it in a skirt or a pant, you buy the 9 inch one because you're going to use 7 inches of that zipper. You're never going to use the 9 inches because you're not going to be able to get all the way down here with your foot. It's going to be stopping because it just can't get all the way down there. But you only need 7 inches opening on any waistline sort of pant or zip or skirt. I'm going that far and I'm going to back stitch. I back stitched it twice just for good measure. And then take it off. Cut your threads away closely so that you don't have long threads sticking out and making your zipper get caught. So before I go to the other side, I want to take a look at my zipper opened up. I sort of trashed it out there because I did this demo yesterday and then I just took it apart and I'm redoing it. What I want to mark, this is where my stitching ended right here. I'm going to work straight across. I usually put a little snip, but you can mark it with a pin. I did the snip yesterday and now it's too many snips. So I want to be really accurate. So I'm marking with a pin and now I'm going to open it back up again. The next thing I want to mark is very important as well, is I want to mark the other side of the fabric that I'm going to be bringing into this place here. So I've just laid the 2 pieces of fabric together. And again, I find where I sewed it down, which is right there. And I'm going to correspond across to the other side that I'm going to pin my zipper here so that they both the sides line up. So again, we'll go back to our visual. I'm visualizing, this one's put in. So I'm visualizing what it looks like laid out, and that would be the top of the zipper. I know this looks silly, but it's important. So now here's the laid out visualization of my zipper, and then here's the other side of my skirt. I need to do the same thing. I need to flip that over and get it to lay on top of the zipper, and then just grab it all at once. Now this time, instead of starting from the top, we're in the position from the bottom. And that's where it should be. That is correct. You're not starting from the top. You're starting from where you left off. So I see that my pins are lining up to each other. So I'm going to pin that down, or I can just manipulate it with my fingers. So I want to start right there at the pin. That's where my needle needs to go in, right where the pin is, in order for this to line up. So once I get my needle in place, I can manipulate my zipper a little better. And I'm going to get that pin out of the way and do another double back stitch. Now I'm going to go to the top and line that up. I want the top of the fabric to line up with my zipper before I do this sewing the whole thing. I want to make sure it lines up at the top first. At which point you can pin, yes, you can pin anytime you want. So when you see my top coming in to the camera, this is what I'm talking about. This needs to line up even with the top of the fabric. So it looks pretty easy. Invisible zippers are great. Sorry. Because like I said, they look like a seam, but you don't want to put them in like a dress that's really, really tight fitting, because it tends to not take as much stress as a regular zipper. It can be, a dress can feel, I mean, a dress can look tight and not feel super tight. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't need to, you know, you just need to be able to breathe. And I think that this zipper's okay, but sometimes it gets a little bit wimpy on a super tight hold. So now, this is why I had to leave my two pieces of my skirt open, because I needed access to put the zipper in itself. But now when I zip it up, it's like magic. It's a nice, clean, super smooth seam. I would have used a beige zipper, but I used this green. This is all I had. But as you can see, when you're done, this is the only part of the zipper that you see is that tab right there. So it looks nice. So now I need to close this bottom. Now on a real garment, this may not be all you have left to close. You may have another 10 inches or 20 inches to close up. But I just want to close this part next to the zipper, and then I will switch my foot and go back and finish the rest of my seam. That's important because we just want to close the bottom of the zipper right now. And if you started the whole seam from the bottom, it might not throw it off when you get to the top. So I'm going to hold this piece of fabric out of the way, or this piece of zipper out of the way. And it's from the opposite side now. It's an awkward thing because the seam allowance I usually have on my right, but now it's on my left. But all I'm going to do is go on my seam allowance, just a couple inches from it, from the bottom of the zipper, and I'm just going to head up to where I stopped and did my back stitching. And I'm pulling this very firmly out of the way, and I want to touch those threads. And then I can back stitch even twice, because I know it's lining up okay. Oops. Oh, something's hot under there. Sometimes the sewing machine wins the battle of the day. So we'll check and see if I sewed my seam correctly. So the first part of this was the zipper going in. Now the second part is the seam going in. So I just want to make sure it's flat. There's a pucker there, but it came out with my fingernail. And then from there, you would go, you could change your foot and go all the way back to the bottom of your seam and start it and finish it up. You pin that shut. So I'm changing my foot over. I'm going to show you, I mean, you know how to do that. It's a simple thing. But I'm changing my foot to show you a dart right now. I'm done with the zipper foot. So my zipper's in. I shut the bottom of my zipper, and then I just go to the bottom of my skirt and then do a regular seam allowance. And then I meet up where I started my closing part. And you can backstitch there if you want, or you could just overlap it by about an inch, depending on where you end it. So that's an invisible zipper. At this point, you would, from here, these are a little bit off, so I would trim that to fit. But from here, you would apply a waistband, or you can even bias tape, whatever you wanted to close it with. So let's talk about a dart. On a fitted skirt, you have darts because your waistline is smaller than your hips. So the zipper end is at about 7 inches. But before our hips start getting larger, we have a dart where we pull the waistline in, and that allows, when the dart ends, that allows a little more volume here for the hips. So that's why we have darts. On your pattern, your dart will probably look something like this. This is much shorter. The darts are usually about 5 inches. So this is your pattern piece. It's still laid on. You haven't taken it off yet. I mark it with, you would have both sides together actually. So that when you're marking, say you've just cut this and you're marking, you've got the left side and the right side of your skirt. So you're going to be marking both at the same time. So while it's still there, I usually just put a pin right there on that last dot. And then the other dots, these two dots are often on the pattern, but sometimes they're not, but it's a straight shot. So I don't bother, excuse me, I don't bother to mark those. I just know it's a straight shot from this here down to there. So I just take a little snip in the same angle as the dart is showing me. And this is like a little slight curved angle, not curved, an angle. So I have these two little snips, and then I have the pin marking the dart, the end of the dart. At this point, because I'm doing two sides at once, I'm just going to reveal the pin a little bit. And I can put a dot there, and then I go to the other side, and I've already done that dart for yesterday, and then I put a dot on the other side, or if I want, I could just put a pin on the other side marking the end of the dart. So when I pull them open, I have a pin on each side marking the dart. So now I'm going to go back. I've taken my pattern pieces off and put them back in the envelope. And there's my two little snips. I'm going to bring those two snips together. I have plenty of seam allowance. On commercial patterns, you get 5/8. That's where my seam's going to go. So my little snip isn't going to hurt anybody. And then I go to my dot. I can put a pin there if I want, or I can just see it. Because I made a big dot, I can see it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take those two snips. I'm going to sew right on those two snips. And I will back stitch, definitely. And now I'm heading, after you get on here and back stitch, then you straighten up and head for your dot. And you're angling it so severely that when you get to the dot, you're at 0. It shouldn't be an abrupt exit. It should be more of a straight exit. I did a little curve there on that one. That's passable, it's okay, don't worry about it, but this one went more straight yesterday. So what that did was that offered me some hip room here. So when you're sewing your dart, then you would go to the iron and you would press the darts toward the side seams so that it's nice and flat. And at this point, you could sew your two side seams together, and then you sew your waistband on. That's it. Guess what? I mean, that is, ladies, look how fast you can make a skirt. I have wanted a skirt really bad to the point where it was faster for me. I needed just a simple black skirt, but I had a certain idea in my head what it needed to look like. And of course, I've been sewing all my life. I have fabric here. I have enough fabric to sell it, to give it away, or whatever. So I made a skirt faster than I can go out and shop for one, because you can't find what you're shopping for. So not that you should always have black fabric on hand for a skirt, but keep in mind that what I just did, I showed you a zipper installation. And if you're making a skirt being the easiest thing, excuse me, that's what took the longest, is the zipper and the two darts. And then you'll have two more darts in front. Sometimes you have 4 and 4. And then you do the side seams and then the waistband. So you can probably crank out a skirt in about 2.5 hours at this rate, just so you know. It's fun. Any questions on invisible zipper installation and darts? But you can see the merit. I mean, you can see this is yet another sewing technique for your wonderful cache of sewing, how to sew stuff. And you can also make a pillow out of this, and you can make many other things using this invisible zipper. I've seen invisible zippers in the front, I mean, in the back of a skirt or pants, or on the side. And if it's on the side, it's on your left side. But I don't ever see them in the front for some reason. Usually in the front, it's a fly zipper, but I don't know why you couldn't put a zipper in the front. If you're gonna put an invisible zipper in a pair of pants that doesn't have a fly front, I would suggest putting it in the back, but you could also put it on the side. But I find side zippers very hard to, get up and down. It's kind of annoying doing all that twisting. But guys probably don't have many side zippers on their pants, right? No, I guess not. Oh yeah, for sure. Anyway, I'm gonna stop the recording.